Modern CPA. Our purpose is to provide valuable information to small business owners. On our podcast, Profit Points, we discuss business how-tos, give tax tips, and dig into real-life experiences in the crazy world of running your own business. If you find this podcast helpful, then like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Profit Points, where we talk to professionals, industry experts, and other business owners about the crazy world of being in business. And today we have Kelly Stento with us from LeRoux School of Dance. Kelly, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining. Thank you, Michelle, for inviting me to be a guest on your podcast. It's very exciting. I am a mom of 3 almost grown children. My youngest is going to be graduating from high school this year, and my oldest will be graduating with his bachelor's degree. So we're soon to be, I guess, empty nesters around here. And we've been quite overrun with our business over the last 25 years. I live in Royersford with my husband, who I met when I was in high school. So we are high school sweethearts.
High school sweethearts.
Yes, decided to spend our lives together, and it's been a pretty nice one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, you got a great family there, Kelly. So we, as small business owners, I know I love to hear about how people have gotten to where they are and their journey in life and what led them to making certain decisions. And I know you have an interesting story as far as you and your business, your owner of LeRoux School of Dance. Can you tell us a little bit about like what happened then and maybe kind of like your journey through, being in business for so long?
Well, way back in the day when I was young, my mom happened upon a little girl in a swimming pool who did not seem to have any parent observing her. And, she soon became quick friends with the actual mommy. And that woman had a dance studio, and she invited my sisters. There are 4 girls in my family, and she invited all 4 of us to come and take dance lessons in a little annex near our house of LeRoux School of Dance. The original school was in Conshohocken, so that was way back in the 80s, and I guess it could have even been in the 70s, the very end of the 70s. But we started dancing, and I became a student teacher when I was in high school, and I continued my journey there through my 20s. And although Bonnie, the friend of my mom, moved away when I was in high school, and then someone else took over the business, and that woman, Denise Loss, became a huge mentor to me, as well as Bonnie was. And she kind of trained me to be a teacher. And when she was ready to step away from the business, she asked me if I would be interested in taking over. So it was not really, I always knew I wanted a teacher. When I was a child and I was growing up, I didn't quite realize I would be a teacher of children in the dance world and also, a teacher of other teachers. And that is kind of what fills my days today. So it was a wild ride. And I guess just being in the right place and provides opportunities for you, the things that you love. And I can honestly say I don't really feel like, some days I feel like I work, but for the most part, when I look back on my life, it definitely has been a journey of something I really love.
So you just kept following. Just kept following the love of dance that led you to being an owner of a business of a dance school, which you probably never thought in your mind at that time that you would be a business owner or had maybe even the aspirations to be a business owner.
That is very true. I have 0 business background whatsoever. I mean, except for self-help books and, now conferences and things. When after second child was born, I was about 5 years into the business. I wasn't at the studio at all. I had set it up so that, it was given to me in such of a way too, that it was very easy for me to take over. And, we purposefully set it up so that we could have a family. And and make our own plans, and, on our own schedule. And when I was a stay-at-home mom for a little over a year, I decided that really was not as fulfilling for me as what I had hoped it would be. And I opened a second location here where we live in Royersford. So the other studio is about 25 miles away. I like never seeing anyone from business in the grocery store or at my kids' schools, but that quickly changed with the Royersford studio. And I kept both the schools for 6 years. When I was approaching years, I now had 3 children. I had grown the Royersford studio to be almost exactly the same size as the one in Conshohocken. I was managing a very large staff in my house and my kids in elementary school and activities.
It's a lot.
It just was crazy time. Yeah. And so another LeRoux alumna approached me and about the possibility of taking over the school in Conshohocken. And so I did sell that to her. And so since then, I have just focused my energies here. It was I think it was in 2009 that I sold the studio in Conshohocken, and I've been just focusing my energies here in Royersford since then.
Well, you had mentioned that the original owner, Denise, one of the owners, the one that you purchased it from, she was a big mentor to you. Did she help you maybe catch you up to speed on how the business operated? And when you were taking over for her, how did she impact that? Was she...
she was a huge part. Yeah, she was a huge part of that for me. She had, way back then, they did not have dance degrees. So there was no dance teachers operating in the world with, having gone to college for, a 4-year degree in dance. If there were, they were very limited. I was not aware of any of them. Denise had gotten her degree in physical fitness and gym. It's like she was going to be a gym teacher. And she had her own aerobics company that traveled from church to church, basically. And that's how she was an Eagle cheerleader. And somebody who danced that little child was a friend of hers. And that's how she came to know Bonnie and got to take over the studio. I was in high school at that time when all of that was happening. And but as Denise came into the business, she definitely was much more of a business person than Bonnie was. Before that, it really was just a hobby. Everybody just came and it was, we took checks and then, her kids would come in and I would give them cash out of the drawer and, they would go grocery shopping and, whatever. And the bookkeeper would come and I would hand him a bag of checks, that we don't want to piece of paper. It really is
very different than the way it is now.
Yeah. So even when I bought the business from Denise, she had really kind of had an operation, even though tuition was now recorded on 3x5 cards that lived in a little box on the desk. We did have a computer and a dot makeshift printer, and but we didn't use it for any. There was no client information in there. We didn't have any CRM plans or anything like that.
It wasn't. Yeah, but there was still a system in place. Yeah. Yes,
and she had exact systems. Her sister did the bookkeeping for her, so I had my big safeguard. I don't know if you know those big long. It was a big long sheet of papers, and that's how I did my ledger. But very soon after, within a year of buying the business, my accountant got me into QuickBooks, and we began to find CRM programs and things that could help all of the information for our clients. So that was a quick turnover, and Denise did a lot of work to make sure that I could do that. But as you can imagine, all the systems are different today. I mean,
absolutely, but it's a learning process. Yeah, it's a learning process. So it was building on itself. You were probably taught her system and then over time evolved that into what it is today, where you have a full-on dance studio CRM system. You have, your accounting software. You have your contact, emailing type of, I don't know, I think your dance studio system does some of that, right? Like the emails and stuff.
We do. We could use a contact or something like that if we needed to, but we do not at this time. And we do have a project management system that we use. So yeah, we do. Google is like a master organizer for multiple people, and it really is. My husband would kill me for saying that because Microsoft employee. So,
so do you think and initially when you took over the business, you didn't have children at the time, is that right? Or you did?
Right. When I first bought the business, I had no kids. My goal was to get in there and pay off the loan and, establish the business well, hire people to teach. Because when I bought the school, I was working there. I was actually teaching dance Monday through Thursday and on Saturday mornings. So I was, that was when the studio was open. There was another classroom. So in that school, there was someone else working there with me. And I was very lucky that the administrative staff that Denise had employed stayed with me for a few years. So that was great. And then, soon after, by the time, I guess the 3 years in, once the loan was paid, I wasn't young and I wanted to have a family. And so I, felt like it was time for me to move in that direction.
And that's great that the business kind of was flexible enough for you to be able to have the teachers teaching for you. And then you were kind of still running the business, obviously, in the background, trying to make sure that everything got done. That must have been difficult to do that double duty with little ones.
Yeah.
And
it sounds funny to say, but, it was so long ago that I don't even remember how I did that. Because like I said,
we have more energy when we were younger.
More energy, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't, even when I opened my second business, which would have been about 5 years of my ownership, it was at that time that one of the dads in my studio came to me and, asked me if I was interested in building a website. And I was like, we don't need that. And he said, you need that, Kelly, and at first I was like, no one that I know has a computer in their house, with kids in kindergarten or younger. None of my friends or really, honestly, anybody that I knew had a computer in their house, and when I had left my last job before I took over the studio, and that had been 5 years, I didn't have email at my last job. So it was very difficult at first for me to grasp the concept that people were going to email me.
Yeah.
And that people were, no cell phones yet. I had a cell phone, but it was called a mobile phone and it lived in my car. I didn't know my phone number.
And they were so big.
And it was for only making outgoing calls in case of an emergency in the dark at night on the expressway,
well, it was so
when I was coming home from work.
Yeah.
So didn't even know the phone number of that. Now, by the time I opened my second school, there were people there was more people. They still were called mobile phones. They weren't the phones they are today. There was no iPhone yet or anything like that. No texting. Yeah. So I've seen quite a transition of the way people communicate over my 25 years.
Crazy.
Well, you went from this business that was kind of like a side business that evolved into, more of just a normal, regular running business. Then you take over, and then you expand to multiple locations, and then you transition that other studio out to somebody else and back to one studio. So you've gone through a lot of transition. The business has evolved dramatically over the years. One thing, a question I have is what's the difference between teaching students to learn how to dance versus teaching teachers how to teach dance?
That's a good question.
Great question. That's a great question. Believe it or not, very similar. It's very similar. People, especially today, there's very few teachers who teach in the world without a degree. A lot of them come to me with master's degrees in choreography and things like that. And, a lot of that experience, although colleges are sort of in some situations making a switch to helping people learn how to take what they know and pass it on to someone else. But a lot of times teachers come and they don't really have any idea where to begin. And in a business like mine, I'm not a conservatory school, or I wouldn't say that we're not professional, but clearly we're teaching like a recreational type program that we want to be available to the masses of children who want to come and expose any family who wants to expose their child to physical fitness or dance. So a lot of times we have to start just at the very beginning and having a curriculum specific to every single teacher, to every single class across the board within my school is very important, because I feel like that is the way that when you're at home, when I'm sitting here and talking to you, there can be classes going on in my studio right now. and I know exactly what the teacher is teaching, exactly what music is being used. In some cases, even exactly what words are being used to teach. So I find it actually very fulfilling, because teaching a young child and watching them like overcome separation from their parents, or even if they can separate from their parent, but they just stand there and watch you for 4 months. And then all of a sudden, one day they just come in and grab the scarf and start moving around the room. It's just a thrill and a joy that I definitely didn't get that from my desk job. I can tell you.
Yeah.
So
teaching,
teaching other people to, recognize and understand that that's the kind of joy and gift that they can give from their knowledge, and helping them like backtrack, like, oh, but nobody ever remembers what the beginning was like. But that's where the real teacher is, not the person who can come in and put a piece of choreography on some kids who've already danced for 12 or 15 years.
Right.
That I don't want to say that's not a skill, because it is. Some
it's just very different.
Very good at it.
Yeah.
But yes. And that's only going to fulfill you in a small niche of the people who want to dance. You want to be able to come in and, make an environment that's good for everybody. I don't know if that really answered your question, Sean.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's completely, I can understand how different it is to teach you're just working with children versus working with other teachers to have them have the skills to be able to teach kids. It's a challenge, but you guys have like a real passion for this, and
and I always laugh. It's way harder, the 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s. That is the job where you are soaking wet and, sweating from just being alive and entertaining. And you can come in and teach a group of 12 or 13-year-olds in your sweat clothes, with a sweatshirt fully zipped up, and the kids are like dying with the fans, and you didn't even break a sweat in an hour. So they are totally two different kinds of jobs.
Wow. I find it really interesting that, you have this creative side, because that dance is very creative, and that was where you originated in the dance world. And then you have to switch your brain to the analytical side in order to run your business, because that's really a section, that really has to happen in order to be clear on how to operate your business and to make it grow. Do you find that's a struggle sometimes, flipping back and forth, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think there was a period in my life when I really didn't deal with it very well. The business was simpler before the internet, so I can say that. I do remember that as a young business owner, and before I had my children, Fridays were like dedicated to office work, returning phone calls, and not that we weren't doing that every day, but Friday really was like the day, like it was a full day of just administrative work. With email, came a whole new side of things. People, at first it's very exciting. So, I was in email 24/7, and then I was creating multiple email accounts to try to like focus my energies in different, and that is, I don't recommend that to anybody. I do feel like it's better, now that I've experienced that, I say just put it all in one place.
Good tip.
Because, at least you can, at least it's just one place, because there are some days when I don't get to check all of my email accounts. So that, at first, being excited that I could converse with people at a time when I didn't think they would reply back was very inviting. But then I quickly learned that I needed to set boundaries. I needed to be able to turn off my computer. We were in Disney World with our children, and both of us were on our phones while we were waiting for the bus. And at one point, the bus for the park that we wanted had come 3 times, and I actually then got on the bus without my husband. And it was a very eye-opening experience for us. Like from that moment on, we were like, no, when we go on vacation, we're going to be with our kids, and we're not going to allow these types of things to impact us the way that they were. We didn't really realize until we were right there in that moment. So now we take 2-week vacations every year. Our children look forward to that time, because it is whatever they want to do. That's what we do. And it's mostly laying by the pool, taking a couple,
whatever floats your boat.
Doing a few excursions over the 2-week period of time. So we were lumped on a log the whole time, but We don't do very much. And we even have pajama days, even when we're in the island somewhere and play games inside all day long.
Yeah.
So, we really did, it's a challenge to balance all of that, but
it's really important to do that though, because, you're in your business. When you're a small business owner, it doesn't shut off at 5 o'clock. It doesn't start at 9 o'clock. It's 24/7. And, it's really difficult to shut that off. But you absolutely have to do that in order to keep the momentum alive, to keep your energy. And, be able to focus and have a successful business.
I think it's really important too to understand that if you are coming from the being employed or the corporate world where it is very structured 8 to 5, let's just say, when you're a small business owner and you're coming from that, you have to remember that you're going to have to allot yourself time. And that may not be, at 7 a.m. or 6 p.m. It may be that you take, an hour at 10 o'clock, or you might take a couple hours in the afternoon, but then you have other things that have to get done into the evening. So it doesn't look the same as, a very stable corporate job where you go to work and you come home. It's very different. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember some friends of mine of my oldest son when he was in elementary school, and they would say, oh my gosh, I just don't even know how you do it. You have your house, you have your business, and I would say, listen, I just put my pants on one leg at a time. When things are really good at home, there's some chaos going on in the business and vice versa, and it is much easier right now. My kids are very independent. COVID, sent us into a whole world of the own in every aspect of our lives. And if I had to be homeschooling my kids, I don't know if I'd be sitting here interviewing with you today. Okay.
Yeah. It wouldn't be enough. You wouldn't have enough time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know there are studio owners out there who did it. So, but just in my mind, the exhaustion that I felt myself and where I was trying to take my business, if my kids were not independent, I honestly don't. I say I don't know. I'm sure I would have done it, but I don't know how I would. So because that's how difficult I felt it was, just trying to keep the business, going and, communicate with everybody, all in this whole new world of
I would love
living.
To hear about that. Because there's so many just starting out small business owners, but you were really seasoned by this point when the pandemic hit. And tell us a little bit about how, just in general, how you had to pivot. You had an in-person dance studio. So what happened, So,
there was a day where I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to get in bed and cover my covers over my head. And if this was it, I lived a good life. I had it 20 years.
Packing it in.
I'm not going to lie, right? There was a time. So, a bunch of dance studio owners got together. I'm in organizations right away. The leaders of those organizations, started sending emails out. Let's get together. Let's talk this through. How are we going to do it? And I was intimidated by all of the technology people had already in their studios. For a minute, at one point I just said, well, I don't have cameras. What do you mean? How am I going to stream this? And the lady literally went like this, Kelly, you got one of these, and I was like, I have a couple of them. She was like, good. That's all you need, and I said, okay. And it was this whole new life breathed into me. So this all happened in 7 days. 7 days after the first day we weren't open, we went live on Zoom.
I mean, wow. You literally changed your entire business model.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in 1 week, we offered 3 classes. The Saturday after the first Saturday we were shut down, and the first one was we had lots of technical issues. The second one we had a little less. The third one was a charm, it was great. And then on Sunday we sat and we said, okay, how are we going to get, what day can you be on Zoom? What day can you be on Zoom? I just sent my staff and said, okay. And we filled out a schedule and we sent it out Sunday afternoon. And then every day of the week, we started classes, and as we went through every 2 weeks, we added more classes, and because we got better with the technology, and we had parents on the calls in the beginning saying, this is what we're going to do. Please check this for your child. We started holding up hardware to show people what they needed if they wanted to hook their computer into their TV so their kids could dance in a bigger room. You know, we started to see people in their basements with like everything moved away. People went out and got dance floors. We started to see kids with floors on the ground and portable bars so that they could do their ballet classes.
Amazing.
I mean, most people were using a chair, you know, and a kitchen, a towel for their scarf. But, you know, in some cases there was, you know, lots of people that were buying lots of things and turning their space at home into a real classroom for their kids. So that was 4 months. We did Zoom recitals. And then we started bringing the little kids back in small groups, which was tremendous. That was a great joy for the teachers themselves, because now we were with people again. And then our older groups, we kept them separated. So half of the group would be in the studio 1 week and half the group was on the TV at the same time. And we did that for an entire season last year.
Wow.
But we did celebrate at the end of the year with an in-person recital. So, you know, just a little goals along the way. I feel like before this ever happened, my tagline for my business was creating strong, confident leaders one step at a time. And I just felt like I needed to really read that to myself every day and say, what would a leader do? A leader would not get in their bed and pull the covers over their head.
You want to, you do. And there's days where you're going to be like, I got to pack out today.
Right. A leader would say, girls, you know, it's not always what we want it to be, but it is. It doesn't, you know, but it's still here. We're still here and we still can do this. And it's not exactly how it was before, but, you know, that's a life lesson that's really hard for a lot of people. I mean, honestly, even without COVID, we would be in a different place today than we were 3 years ago.
Well, so, yeah, because I think you were also looking, you know, you were only looking at trying to get through that next step, right? Because you were, if you had, looking back on it, if you had been at the beginning and you looked at the period where you had all of these classes and all this Zoom and all this technology going on, you would have been like, there is no way I can do that. There's no way. But you were looking at, okay, let's just get 1 week class, or let's just get 2 classes down or 3 classes down. And then you get better and better. And then you added more teachers and you started tweaking it. So it wasn't like the whole product was finished. You know, it wasn't like you were jumping to that end point. You were building and learning as you went. And I think you're like an expert with all of this stuff now. You are like so good with Zoom and groups and sessions and split outs and you know,
and that's like the humbleness of just who I am within the business, because I still don't consider myself to be an expert of anything, because I still, in my mind, I have like all these things that I haven't done yet, all these, you know, aspirations for where I want to be, you know, to be better. You know, the next right thing is always the right thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I still feel like I'm on this journey of getting where I haven't gotten there yet, you know?
So tell us what you think about that.
Like you said, there was a lot of hard days, you know, in there too.
Yeah.
Well, what I think about my journey ahead?
Well, yeah. So, like what is it? You know, you just said that you see, you know, there's more things you want to do, and there's more that you don't know yet. And so what does that look like?
Well, for right in the immediate future, we are about to launch a new a campaign with a company that specializes in dance studios. So I see an influx of dancers coming my way at a very fast pace. It's an automation system. Some of it's automated and some of it is personal. So we are carving out, and we actually have our final training today, and I'm hoping that the ads are going to go live over the weekend. So this is hopefully going to transform it really and help us grow back to where we were. Nobody wants to go to year 1 after they've completed year 19 in their business. So
you're looking at me, when you say back to, you mean pre-COVID, pre-COVID,
yeah. I was at my, 19 years. And then now in COVID, I mean, at the very beginning of COVID, I went all the way back to like my very first September open in Go. I mean, our number plummeted back to like 50 students. You know, a person who's 19 years in does not want to go back to year 1 ever. And that's what happened to us. And so now we're still about down 40% of what we were pre-COVID. So we've been looking into ways to be more efficient. And this audit program, I believe, is going to really help us. And the team of people that I'm kind of bringing along with me right now are young and they are hungry for it and they're going to help. Because I don't think I can do it myself. I shouldn't be doing it myself.
You shouldn't be doing it yourself. Yeah.
So that's the immediate future. I see some real growth happening for us. We have some big goals for the next 3 months. So we want to make sure that we hit them. And at the same time, I'm growing this new office staff who is, like, as I said, hungry to learn about the business. And they are wanting to take on more tasks. So it's forcing me to really get my systems in place. I have it right here, and they need to be not here so that other people can do them. And I was kept waiting to get a person and to do this because I wanted to have it all written down. But honestly, I shouldn't have been waiting. I should have just been writing it as I was doing it. That's what I did this year. And it really is helping. And the other person is resourceful and doesn't mind doing some research or finding things. And so that is actually making everything way easier too, because she's writing a lot of the stuff as she's doing it. So I'm really in a good place with some good support. And so I see some real growth happening for us here. And it has always been my plan with both studios. As I said, I sold the other one. And eventually, this studio went side that I don't want to be. I don't want to say I get tied to the business in any way because right now I don't go there every day anymore. So, but if there's a time when I want to fully step away, I want the business to be strong and be able to show that someone else can make a living from it, and maybe even a better living than it, because it's definitely much more of a machine and a process, and it has a lot of things that it didn't have when I came, and some of the things that it had when I came have improved with the way the technology has improved over the years. So it's the studio itself is at 75 years old. I am the third owner. And I fully anticipate that there will be a fourth owner and a fifth owner, if everyone.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a living thing, this businesses can continue to evolve and grow and change and be, sold, maybe not passed down necessarily to children or something like that. But, it is a thing that can stay in existence if that's what you choose. And, you got to treat it as such, it's always going to be ever changing. So,
well, what's impressive is that you took the the pandemic and you after a little bit of getting under the covers, got out and you went from I don't know how I'm going to do Zoom to teaching parents how to set up their cameras on their TVs like within a matter of days and weeks. And some of that is, I think you said you had other people show you how to do it. So it's even in being a business owner for 20 years, you still need mentors. You still need people to help you and guide you. Yeah. And then you can pass that on and those lessons to the next generation that's going to be owning, taking over for you.
Yes, exactly. I was just in Miami this past weekend with a bunch of hundreds of dance studio owners. And I went up to the founder of the program. He's been doing this for about 7 years. So like I said, 25 years ago when I started, Denise was the only person, when there was conflicts or scheduling problems or parent problems or whatever it might happen to be, Denise was my go-to. Thank goodness. She allowed me to pay her a consulting fee for the first 3 years that I owned the business.
Oh, awesome.
And we are still great friends and we still have lunch a couple times a year. And, I still call her when things are crazy. I received an award a few years ago in Vegas and she came to the event where I was receiving the award. She's been not just a mentor when I was young, but just always been there. And she's like, oh my goodness, you're way better than I am today, with everything that you do. And it's very humbling because I still hold her in that regard of the person who was like helping me go along my way. And there are several women who have worked for me over the years who have branched out and have either bought a studio or opened their own from scratch that, I have worked directly with, and they still call me on a regular basis when they run into things. So, I thank that person who runs the organization where I was, because 25 years ago it was me and Denise. No other dance studio was going to tell me what their secrets were, or,
not at the time. Yeah.
Right. And these organizations that are now available that really support the dance industry to be, they encourage us to call ourselves our CEOs and to be who we really are. I mean,
exactly.
I really was
You're running a business.
The whole time.
Yeah.
I just, I would go to my high school reunions and people would say, "Oh, Kelly, you still doing that dance thing?" Which I mean, yes. I wanted to say to them, "Are you?"
You mean operating and running a business and employing people? Yeah, that's
right. Like, yes, I am actually.
Yeah, and affecting generations of kids with. So I mean, it's not a little thing, and it's not something that oh, you're doing that dance thing. That's
right.
Little patronizing, I guess.
But whatever. I mean, it is what it is. And I think they're happy too to hear that I am still doing it. But that's probably who they knew me to be. In high school
exactly.
too. So,
Yeah. So just to kind of recap, I after this interview here that we're talking, it seemed like having a mentor, having somebody who was going to help you through the beginning stages and in various parts of the business was really helpful. And then the fact that you are now in organizations that are with other dance studio owners, where you can bounce ideas off of, whether it's a mastermind or various conferences, that seems it seems like it had a big or is having a big impact on you, along with the various other types of organizations that are kind of giving support to you guys as owners, has been really helpful.
Yes, I heard a disturbing statistic. I hope I'm saying it correctly, because that would surprise me when I heard it. One of the speakers over the weekend had said that only 1% of people on the earth read books beyond their schooling. And I thought, what? Because here I am in this room, people who read self-help and, books to put
that's me too
forward. And I, and I'm in other organizations where I know people are reading all the time and sharing the books that they read. So it's just, I think that's key. It's the fact that you're a life learner.
Life learner.
If you have a lifetime learner mindset, right, then you are always going to be, pushing yourself forward. I see it in my husband too, even in what he does for his job. He's constantly learning new technologies. It's, been something I think he'll probably work until, he can't. And so he can't anymore. Not because he has to, but because it truly is what he loves to do.
And it's who he is. Yeah. The learning part and the growing and being sharp and staying, active. Yeah.
Yeah. And I see that, in myself too. And I hope to, be inspiring for the next generation of the business, whoever, whether it's in my business or somebody else who's in my school, who goes on to have their own business someday, that they see that, continually educating yourself and making changes is not a bad thing. Everybody makes changes. McDonald's makes changes.
Everybody does.
No matter
and
how
you have to.
Is.
Yeah.
Changes mean growth and opportunity, and and hopefully everyone can embrace that, the way that I have, and I hopefully will be able to continue to embrace them as long as I want to be working and impacting the kids.
That is awesome. So Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today. And I learned so much from you, and I hope other small business owners, can take some things away from, what you went through. And we just really are thankful to have you with us here today.
Well, thank you. It was really a pleasure to be a part of your podcast. Thanks for thinking of me.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely. Well, we're going to wrap this session up, and we'll look for the next episode shortly. Thanks, everybody. Take care. If you find this podcast helpful, then like, subscribe, and follow us on social media.